If you're watching this video, then you are addicted to weed. You're addicted to weed and you want to stop. You really want to stop. Now, if you clicked on this video, I'm guessing that you've probably tried to quit before and you failed. And quitting weed isn't just like an instant process, right? If you can just put it down the next day, then you probably weren't addicted to begin with. But if you've relapsed and then tried again and then couldn't do it, then this is the video for you. Now, quitting weed requires something very special because weed has been normalized pretty heavily in the past, I want to say 3 or 4 years. It's been heavily normalized. It's been legalized in a lot of places. And I think when something gets legalized like that, people tend to think like, oh, it's now all of a sudden okay. Unfortunately, the law doesn't dictate your body and your mind. It just dictates the law, the voice of the people, if you want to call it that. But that being said, there's a lot of people out there who are addicted to weed who still use it because they know other people who are able to use it and be fine. There's certain people who can use these drugs and who are able to just function day to day. They're able to go to work, have relationships, be happy in life, just general living. And then there's people who cannot do that. People who absolutely crash and burn when it comes to systematically using some sort of substance, in this case marijuana. And those people, I would assume, use quite a bit of social media. I've noticed that there is a very strong correlation between weed and social media, where people will consume weed and then consume social media with it. It's a very common, symbiotic relationship between drugs. And I would heavily consider social media a drug. It is highly addictive. It spikes your dopamine. And it's pretty dangerous because it perpetuates negativity more than positivity. I think that much is obvious. Humans are wired to always be looking out for danger. And because of that, danger is what we fixate on, right? And danger can manifest in the form of, if we see some sort of random shit in politics and we might be like, oh, the World War III is going to happen. We're going to be consuming that content a lot more to keep an eye on it so we know to be prepared for when something might come. Now, this is kind of bad because social media, influencers and creators will capitalize on this phenomenon and will post engagement bait content that makes you upset, it makes you angry, it makes you scared, it makes you anxious. And that really couples with the weed. That really goes hand in hand with weed. Things like that, things like fear, things like shame, social rejection. People with social anxiety flock to weed. I don't understand it because it typically makes social anxiety worse. There will be an anecdote or two here and there where someone relies on weed to calm their social anxiety. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest, never in your life ever again, consume an anecdote and let that make a decision for you. Because you are taking 1 or 2 stories, maybe 3, maybe 4, from the internet and trying to map it to your own personal life. That's a human trait. People will do that. But please don't do that when it comes to this. Don't be thinking about quitting and then you're sort of, having urges again, and then you read something online where someone's like, oh yeah, I quit weed for 6 months and it did nothing for me. I was so much better off when I was using it. Please, for my sanity, do not engage with that stuff. Do not even read that stuff. That is all for them. They could also be lying too. You never consider that when you read these anecdotes. They could just be making that shit up. And on top of that, if it's making you feel bad, why do you need to read some other anecdote? That should be evidence to you that the addiction is speaking for you. It's not your brain. It is the addiction confirming a bias to what you want, which is to relapse, to smoke weed, right? This brings me to my first step to quitting. You have to actually want to quit. It's very difficult to want to quit because weed is one of those things where it just makes you feel like nothing is something, right? Like if you have a very boring life, you don't do much, maybe you just work, go home, don't have many friends around, so you just kind of like scroll. Weed makes that a lot more enticing. It really does. It makes sitting and doing nothing feel like you're doing something. It creates this false perception that your life is entertaining because you're high. That is not true. You are still doing the same thing, sitting in your room, scrolling on your phone, maybe jacking off. I don't know what you're doing, but essentially it allows you to become nothing. You become nobody if the weed is doing it to you. Now, of course, there's people who can smoke weed and be completely fine. There's people who can smoke every day and be addicted and still not have the same negative effects that I'm trying to describe. So now I'm going to clarify this in the second part, which is the negative effects. If you become an overthinker when you're high, then you were not cut out for weed. If you become an overthinker, someone who thinks too deeply about too many things and then becomes cripplingly, existentially anxious, then weed might just not be for you. Not everybody thinks like that, all right? That's what people have a hard time wrapping their head around, is that not everybody thinks like you. Not everyone reacts the same way to substance. I had a friend in college. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest, alcohol has always helped me the most in social situations. It's a bad crutch to have in general, but it has helped me the most in social situations. But I've had friends who've become very anxious and very angry on alcohol. My father became very angry when he was drunk. Many people I know become sort of like very tense, like fight or flight mode when they're drunk. And it's very bipolar. They'll go from really happy to really intimidated by someone for some reason, and then they'll just be a crash out. Me personally, when I'm drunk, I'm pretty like docile. Like I don't just be saying crazy stuff. I just feel like I can say anything and I'll be fine. But I don't say offensive stuff. I don't just ramble, whatever. I still can compose myself even if I'm blackout drunk. I just won't talk. I go nonverbal. I just always try to have a good time when I'm drunk. But any drug that I take alone, that's a whole different story. Like the effect is monumentally different than when I'm with people. Typically, when I'm with people, I just try to vibe. I just try to chill. But yeah, I kind of derailed myself a little bit. I don't really remember what I was talking about. Yeah, quitting weed. Let me think. I want to give you like some sort of poignant point on how to quit. So honestly, I'll just outline what I personally do. One, have some sort of written down tracker of your sobriety. Don't rely on your brain for everything, please. People tend to think that they can just be in their head like, oh yeah, I'm gonna quit, I'm just gonna quit. Mark that date down, track the days that are going by, keep track of the progress. It always is a little dopamine reward, little thingy, whatever the fuck, when you can look at the day that you quit, look how far you've come, and feel the differences in your head. Next thing, this is the biggest. When you're quitting, you are going to feel worse in some ways, but better in some ways. And almost always, the ways that feel worse, you remember more, they hit you more, and you're like, okay, I was better off when I was high. I'm gonna go back to smoking. No, that is the trap, okay? The way that you feel worse typically is most people just feel like a general anxiety, but it's not anxiety, it's just clarity. You are not used to being so mentally clear and actually taking in all this information that is around you. Because when you're high, your senses get dulled a little bit and you're not really fully taking in life. When you're sober, now you're taking in so much information. It's a lot to handle. That will wear off in like a year. I know that's a scary long time. It might wear off sooner depending on how addicted you are, how often you use it. But in a year, your mental clarity will be pretty much regained. They say 90 days is how long it takes, but I've talked to a lot of people. Personally, I've experienced sobriety relapse for the past 6 years. So I kind of know what it feels like. I did go a full year sober, and then I relapsed, and now I'm kind of starting that journey again. But yeah, it's kind of like a back and forth. Not a back and forth. It's kind of like a mixed bag when it comes to when people feel the positive benefits. Which brings me to my next point: is be delusionally hopeful that it will work, because that's really the only way that you're gonna get through like a year of not using the drug that you relied on, right? Like, think about it. Weed is your crutch for everything. Social situations, intense, stressful situations. Maybe you're practicing for an interview the night before and you're getting super stressed, so you just start smoking mindlessly. It's your crutch. It helps you out when you feel bad. But it's not actually helping you. It is what is perpetuating that bad feeling over and over and over again. I guess the last thing that I'll say is you got to be okay with relapsing, right? There's so much shame around relapsing. It's like, oh my God, I put so much time into being sober and I've just broken that. And it kind of feels like, okay, what's the point of me trying this again if I'm going to break it? The same advice holds. Be delusional. Be delusionally hopeful that you are going to actually see some positive benefits when you see this thing fully through, right? So my TLDR, my ultimate finding is that, one, ignore anecdotes, please. Don't be influenced by the things you see online. Two, be delusional. Be so hopeful that something good is going to come from it that you would be stupid. It would be irrational for you to not try it, even harder to quit. And then I guess 3 is, be nice to yourself. It's a difficult process. It's not your fault. Maybe you try to rationalize. Oh, maybe you try to say, oh yeah, no, it was my fault. It's not your fault. This stuff happens to a lot of people. Maybe you were in a stressful situation. Maybe you even put yourself in that situation. Doesn't matter. Absolve yourself of feeling guilt when it comes to that, because it doesn't matter. Like, being hard on yourself for what, right? It's only going to hurt you in your process of quitting. So, that being said, I hope you guys quit type shit.